everyone, today we have in front of us Illion. Now, Illion is a new light mythic monster, and today in front of us we have all of her skills, her stats, and yeah, all of the good stuff that is connected to Illion. Now, a little bit on Illion. Illion will be available in the Illion's Tale. Now, Illion's Tale will be beginning very soon. It is just like any other tale that happens in Monster Legends. For example, Rimlad's Tale, that is a very popular example. Now, I believe this is one of the best mythic deny monsters released as of yet, and so yeah, let's just jump right into it. Now, first of all, this video is structured in this way. We have the stats in front of us, then we'll be discussing the traits, the relics, the books, and then finally I will go over all of the skills and explain you all how good this monster is or how bad or usable are the skills for this monster. Then in the end, I would recommend the specific 4 skills that I would consider the best skills for this monster and that you should run in your build. And obviously we'll also be going over the ultimate. Now, starting off, we have a life of 57,908. Now, this is a pretty standard kind of life for mythic monsters, around 60k to 58k. This is on the bit of a lower side. Now, this is the trend that we have been seeing with deny monsters right from the very start. Deny monsters have a high speed and a low life stat, so that's it for that. And for power, we have 5,313. Now, this is also a pretty low power stat, but that does not matter for this monster simply because this monster is a deny monster, and deny monsters usually do not have a high power stat or a high life stat. The only thing that matters for deny monsters is their speed stat, and this monster has a pretty high speed stat. If you go over all of the mythic monsters, this will definitely come right on top or somewhere in the top 5 or so. Then for the trait, we have an evolving trait. Like all monsters that are being released recently, it has a evolving trait. Now, the trait I did not discuss in my previous video when we just had a little bit of information and only we had the skill set of Illion. Now, for the trait, we have at rank 0 Harden. Now, Harden, Tough, any of those traits are pretty important for a monster in my opinion, simply because there are tons of DOTs out there. DOTs stand for damage over time. For those of you who do not know, this includes effects like sunburn, like burn, like ignition, like bleeding, like curse, etc. And this will also provide a protection against deny skills like freeze, like stun, any of those kind of skills, possession, whatever you want to call it. Then for rank 3, we have status caster True Vision. Now, this is, I believe, the deal breaker for this monster. You have to try your level best to get this monster at rank 3 because this True Vision will make this monster stand a bit above the edge. Now, if you do not know what True Vision is basically an increase in your accuracy. It's like basically having a buff on your accuracy stat, and this will make the attacks land much more easier. Now, all of these attacks that are in the deny category have usually an accuracy of 90%. Now, that 90% can be reduced by traits like Hardened and Tough, etc., which reduces the chances of landing those skills by 25%. Now, if you have a True Vision, you can bypass all of that and increase your chances on landing these type of skills on monsters with the Tough trait, the Bulwark trait, the Hardened trait, or any of those traits that protect or reduce the chance of skills landing. Now, for relics, these are pretty standard relics for a monster in the deny category. That is the staff relic and the amulet relic. And for staff, I would recommend you run any of those relics that reduce stamina, number 1, or you could run that increase your own stamina, number 2, or any of the following staffs. I think there are lots of good options for all kinds of relic categories. For amulets, you can run from the bronze category, from the gold category. There are pretty good amulets. And obviously the diamond category has the best of both worlds. Then for the books, I wasn't expecting this monster to be in the wing category, but I guess those ears suffice as wings as well. So yeah, the design, let me comment on the design for just 1 second. The design, I think, is pretty cool. And yeah, this monster is from the wing category. Now, wing category includes lots of great monsters like Samael, the Plague Carrier, all of the Samaels, and a lot of other very great monsters, as well as in the spirits category, Zyron the Ruby, as well as I think Rimlad is also in that category, and lots of other great monsters as well. So it's a great addition to all 3 books. And the last book, obviously, as you can see on your screen, is Good Legions. Now, for tier number 1, we have Friendly Slap. That is a 50 damage with 2 turn cooldown, and the element is special with a stamina cost of 40% and an accuracy of 95%. This is just a single target thing move that will deal heavy special damage to enemy and applies total damage reduction to one enemy. Now you could use the skill in a situation where you want to get rid of the attacker first rather than go for the deny monster or anything like that. So you could run in that situation, but that situation doesn't usually come up, so I wouldn't say you run the skill right now. Then for the second move from tier 1 is that is Untrue Vision, that deals heavy light damage to one enemy, applies blind, sunburn, and daze to one enemy, requires cooldown. And it is a 50 damage move with a 1 turn cooldown, and it is from the light category with a 45%, with a 95% accuracy and a 45 stamina cost. So this move that I would definitely recommend you run, that you could run this in a lot of situations. For example, if you do not have your AoE, or if you have already used your AoE and it's right, like the cooldown for that is not up, you can definitely use this move in order to, stop a monster from attacking you in the next turn, or at least reduce significantly the chance of, landing that attack on you. For tier 2 we have I'm All Ears, that removes all negative status effects from itself, applies a photophobic shield to itself, requires cooldown. This is a 0 damage move with a 2 turn cooldown and is from the special element, and it costs 50 stamina. Now what this does is it clears all of the negative status effects you may have, especially very useful if you have effects like Curse that deal an increased amount of damage over time and can be very, very nasty for you. And you will also be getting a photophobic shield. Now what I know what a photophobic shield here is implied is it could either reduce damage from oncoming attacks, or it could completely nullify the effects of all of the elemental attacks except from the light element and the special element, if I am not very much mistaken. I could be wrong. If I am wrong, please do comment down below and correct me. I will correct that mistake in the comments. If I'm wrong, I'm really, really sorry. This usually does not come up in analysis, so I'm not really aware of this right now. So for tier 2, the second move we have is Flashy Fox, deals heavy dark damage to one enemy, applies total blind to one enemy. Now you could run this skill, you could run either Flashy Fox or Untrue Vision depending upon the situation you might face. For example, you would run Flashy Fox if you are in a light based element war and in the opposing team you have a lot of light monsters, and this move can come in handy in dealing extra damage as well as completely deny the enemy monster in terms of total blind. But you have to keep in mind that a lot of monsters in the light category have an immunity to being blinded, so you should consider that as well. Or either you could run Untrue Vision depending on the situation. You can switch those out in those two skills. And then for tier 3 we have Cunning Trick, that removes positive status effects from one enemy, gives 1 extra turn to itself, requires cooldown. So this is a 3 turn cooldown skill that costs 60 stamina to run. Now what I have been noticing, if you have been watching for my channel for a long time, you may have noticed that I'm extremely against skills that have an extra turn, simply because there's so many monsters out there that have an anticipation. But the only time I recommend running these kinds of extra turn skills is when they remove positive status effects, because this will, save you from a lot of trouble if you're going up against monsters that have a mega taunt ability. And especially in the light category, I think Clipium is used a lot of times, and it has a megaton move which everybody runs, and it's really annoying to get rid of. So if you have a removal of positive effects monster on your team, you should definitely run this in order to get rid of the megaton and as well as deny in the second turn. Then the second move in tier 3 is Did You Miss Me, deals moderate light damage to all enemies, applies sunburn, daze, blind to all enemies, requires cooldown. Now this is the main deny move that everybody should run in this monster, and you should not be running your monster without running this move. What this does is completely, or at least very near to completion, denies the enemy team completely and reduces the accuracy by a lot. Now when running the skill, you have to keep in mind that this will not work against monsters, or at least partially work against those monsters that have an immunity to blind. You should especially be wary of running the skills when you have opposing monsters in the team that are immune to blind and sunburn or any of those effects, blind, daze, etc. So yeah, be sure to be looking out for that. Other than that, I think this is a very, very usable move with a very, very usable monster. So yeah. Now then In the Lost, we have Golden Fennec, which is a special that deals 50 damage, that deals heavy light damage to all enemies, applies total damage reduction and total blind to all enemies, and applies evasion to all allies. OP special, that's how specials should be. As you know, there's a very low chance of triggering specials in any kind of situation you might be in. So yeah, that's it for the special. Now for the last part of this video, I would recommend 4 moves. Now these moves are very, very important, so I would recommend running both of the tier 2 skills, and let me highlight the importance of those two again. Cunning Trick, again, very useful against Medica Taunt monsters, and the Did You Miss Me move is also very important. It is the main deny move. You should be running these two. Then we have either you could run Untrue Vision or Flashy Fox depending on the situation you might be facing, and obviously you should run I'm All Air, that removes negative status effect and obviously applies a photophobic shield to itself as well. Now I think this is a very simple monster overall. I love the trait. I have seen the stats as well and they're pretty great as well. As for the relics, pretty on point, and books as well. Now the skills are a little bit on the mediocre side, but that's what we have come to expect of the mythic monsters out there. So yeah, I think this is a very good mythic overall, and yeah, a lot of people will be using it. Again, if you are able to get this monster at rank 3, definitely get this. And you might, if you have some extra money, I would consider spending on this monster simply because it is a deny monster, and deny monsters in the mythic category are rare right now. So if you want to go up those PvP leagues and you know you have specific amount of mythic amber, you want to rank up some monsters, go for this one. And yeah, that concludes my video. Hope you liked it, and before you leave, please do consider subscribing. It will help me a lot, and click on the notification bell in order to get all of the latest news, updates, monster leaks, analysis. You count them. Thank you for watching. See you in the next one. Bye bye.